This video is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, let me tell you about it. It's free. They're creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast straight from your phone, computer, or iPad. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, iTunes, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 17 for Friday, December 11th, 2020. We're almost done with 2020. Yeah, the 2020 recap is coming soon. It's going to be a huge episode. Who knows what happens to then, or from now until then. That's going to be a huge episode if I'm not lying myself. I mean, who knows? The NBA season's going to start. Training camps are going to be done. Harden's going to have his situation figured out. And with that, let's get right into it. Our first topic today will be about the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, if you don't know, they completely blew up their franchise. They just gave up everything. I have their roster sheet right here. Their roster used to consist of Steven Adams, Darius Bazley, Deontay Burton, Hamidou Diallo, Luens Dort, Terrence Ferguson, Dalton Gallinari, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Kevin Hurney, Mike Muscala, Abdel Nader, Nerlens Noel, Justin Patton, Chris Paul, Andre Roberson, Isaiah Roby, and Dennis Schroeder. Now, keep all those guys in mind. So, in this episode, we're going to just be talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder and one little sneak peek at the end. Something happened to James Harden that we will never forget about. So, the Thunder ended up saying that they wanted to blow up their franchise. They wanted to just start over as, the Thunder. They wanted to end the first era of basketball in their association, and they ended up trading Chris Paul, got rid of Gallinari, got rid of Ferguson, Schroeder, and basically everybody except Bazley, Burton, Diallo, Dort, Gilgeous-Alexander, and Schroeder, I think, and Roberson. I don't know what happened to Mike Muscala. Abdel Nader left. I know that. They traded Abdel Nader to the Lakers. No, they traded him to the Suns. So Abdel Nader's on the Suns. Chris Paul is also on the Suns. He got traded. I think I already talked about that in a previous episode. This might just actually be a short episode, like sub-10 podcast. I don't think that's just a podcast. I think this is just a show. I don't know. Leave your opinions in the comment section below. Is that a show or is that a podcast? Because I'm going to be doing a lot of sub-10 podcasts. I don't know what to call them. I feel like they'd be like a show. I know, but a show's like 30 minutes, right? Because when a show airs on TV, isn't a show like it airs on TV and it's the 30-minute period, but it's really like 23 minutes. I don't know if I could make a podcast 23 minutes. The thing is, I just get right to the point in most of my podcasts, but I'm trying to learn how to drag it on longer like I'm doing right now so I can make it actually a podcast. And like my last one was 18 minutes. And I feel like that's a decent podcast. I feel like a podcast has to be over 10 minutes to be considered a podcast. But what is it if it's sub 10? Is it then just a show, a snippet, a tidbit? Because I feel like my first 13, 14 episodes were just a half a podcast, a sub 13-minute podcast. That's the thing. That's the problem. And I also don't really give heads up a lot. I usually just do stuff. And I'm going to try and learn how to, manage that. Manage the brand online and stuff like that. Who knows? I'm trying to really get a lot of my stuff out there. I've got to the point even where I'm debating putting ads up on Spotify. I might actually be putting ads up on Spotify. So if you see this on YouTube, I will be putting ads up on YouTube. Or not ads like in my video, but ads up for everybody around to come sub to me. So hopefully I can do that. I'm trying to convince, I have a really tight budget right now, so I don't want to have to spend $100 to get my, I don't know. Everybody says their first 100 subs are the hardest. But the thing is, I just don't want to get subs off of advertisements. I want to get them that like stick around. I want to get the subs that stay where they are and continue to watch. The thing is, I think I kind of have a loyal fan base right now. A good 15. A good 15, I'd say. I don't really know how to promote. That's the problem. So if I get like a good viewing and following, subbing things on podcasts on like Spotify, iTunes, I don't know what. That's another thing, but I'll talk about that later. I just want to get like a loyal fan base on both Spotify and YouTube. YouTube's the big one right now. YouTube's been around since the beginning. Anchor's been around since episode 2. I usually focus on Anchor first, and so I could just get it out, and then like you guys, I don't have to upload like the video footage. And one more thing that I have to talk about before I probably get into the rest of it. I don't know if I'll get into the rest of it. Who knows what I'll think of when I'm talking. And one more thing is, what do I call like everything other than the podcast or than YouTube? Because I could just call it YouTube and or / the podcast, but I usually just group in everything together as the podcast. After all, it is the Pidgecast. The Pidgecast podcast on YouTube and Spotify. But what do I do? Like, you see how I said YouTube and Spotify? Like, I have more than just Spotify. I have it on Google Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, of course, iTunes, of course, Pocket Podcasts, Radio Public, things like that. I have it on all of that, but, really just, I don't have a name for just everything other than YouTube. I don't know if I should just call it the pod. I'll just start referring to it as the podcast. So, yeah, make sure you follow this podcast. I don't really know what to say. That's also another thing. What do I say when I say at the end of it, like, oh, like the video on YouTube for that. But what would I say when I'm referring to the podcast? Like, would I say make sure to follow? I just want people to stick around and, be loyal to this podcast. I mean, as you know, I try to put in my best effort to it, and I'm trying to upload as much as I can now. Now, back on track to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They blew up everything, and they now have 32 second-round picks within these next few weeks. It's going to be a big few years for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They basically put around a roster, if I'm just oversimplifying it, to a bunch of old men and Shea. I'll go over the trades and how Oklahoma City Thunder's been drafting. Then I'll talk about James Harden. Oklahoma City Thunder, they traded Terrence Ferguson and I believe that not Gallo. They traded Terrence and someone else to the Sixers for Al Horford. They actually did that, and they got a first-round pick out of that, of course. They traded Chris Paul and Abdel Nader to the Suns for Kelly Oubre Jr., Ricky Rubio, Ty Jerome, and someone else, plus a first-round pick, of course. And then they traded Ricky Rubio for a 2020 first-round draft pick, the 17th pick, plus their 2 first-round picks in the further, like the 25th and 28th pick, plus Ricky Rubio for the 17th pick. And they traded Kelly Oubre Jr. for a pick. And then they traded Dennis Schroeder for, I think it was Danny Green and a first-round pick. And I think they're trading Danny Green right now for a first-round pick. At this point, Sam Presti is going to trade his mother for a first-round pick. They have so many first-round picks. In fact, they have 32 first-round picks in the next 6 years. And you can't tell me that they don't draft the next Giannis Antetokounmpo or LeBron James and 32 picks. Especially with how Sam Presti has been drafting. And that's another thing. Sam Presti drafts international players. He drafted Aleksiu Pokusevski, and he also drafted Theodore whatever his name is. I'm not going to try and pronounce it right now. He traded for those two, or he didn't trade. He drafted those two because with like the rise of Giannis, Tony Parker, all of these big, great players who are international, he did that and somehow they drafted like Tony Parker and Giannis as these prospects that come in like Aleksiu Pokusevski and Theodore, and they turn out to be the best players on the team. And that's something that That's something that I've admired from these players, these players from a business standpoint. They like being underrated. They like being the small ones on their team. And now off of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think I talked about it for 4 minutes. Is 4 minutes good enough? I mean, 4 minutes was the length of my podcasts back a few months ago, but hey, who cares? Who cares? Uh, anyways, now on to James Harden to take us to 10 minutes so I can pack ads on this video later. James Harden was caught at a certain type of club, and I think you guys can figure out real quick what the type of club was. I think, is suspended for a few weeks, and he just skipped training camps to go to a club. He was caught by the NBA's National Snitch Hotline. They have a phone number that you can call and report players if you have video evidence of them somewhere where they're not supposed to be. Because the NBA put in new rules with COVID where you can't go out to public places, and so they just want to protect the health of their players. One more funny thing that I've been seeing. The NBA has announced they're not testing for marijuana anymore, so people are saying that J.R. Smith is the new MVP. I'm putting my money on J.R. Smith, too. He's going to be the new MVP if it is true. I think they're not testing for marijuana for COVID reasons, but, I mean, most of the NBA, or for a long time, marijuana was very notorious for finding its way to the NBA. Anyways, that's it for this episode. If you do enjoy, like the video if you're seeing this on YouTube, because I'll just probably use the same audio. Make sure you follow the podcast if you're on just any other podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, things like that. That's the problem I have when I'm referring to just podcasts. If you're on the YouTube, make sure you like the video. Yeah, I got that part right. But then it's if you're on the podcast, just follow the podcast, and that's gonna be a wrap for this episode. I will be trying to upload either Sunday or Monday. I have no idea when I'll upload next. I'll try and upload every single day now. I'll try. I said I'll try. That kind of pushes me to upload twice a week. So hey, thank you guys for watching, and stay safe. Make sure you just kind of maybe promote my episode. And I may not mind if you do that. Goodbye.